What's up, guys? Jason of New Age Revolution down here in the cave for another thrilling episode of Wrestling with the Past. I don't know why I'm speaking slowly for dramatic effect. That's what I assume I am doing. Wrestling with the Past, the road to WrestleMania, the real road to WrestleMania, not this nonsense that happens nowadays when everybody points at the WrestleMania sign. It was cool the first time it was done. No, this is the real road to WrestleMania. The road to the WrestleMania that began wrestling as we know it today. The war to settle the score has happened. You heard me go kind of a deep dive into the war to settle the score. That is over, and now officially we're going to start seeing some things develop towards WrestleMania. Is that you, child? Come on in, bud. We have a pause in the action here. You coming in, Finn? 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 Well, maybe not. All right. We're going to start seeing some stuff develop. And you know, build towards WrestleMania. Now, I think a lot of the matches at WrestleMania had no storylines behind them. So we're not going to really see anything. Junkyard Dog Greg Valentine, a couple of the, all the opening matches. Really, the storyline matches are Andre and Stud, obviously the main event, and Wendy Richter and Leilani Kai. That's about it. Even Sheik and Volkov versus the U.S. Express. There's not much. There's no storyline behind it. It's just a tag team challenge match. So that's about the build to that we're going to get those three big angles. So let's start things off with Tuesday Night Titans. From February 22nd, 1985. Tuesday Night Titans is now on Fridays, and it has been cut down to 1 hour. So I don't know what that means. Usually a time slot change or a day change and going from 2 hours to 1 hour means the show's not doing so well. I guess maybe not. I mean, we are in the second to last season of TNT. It only lasted 3 years, and I don't even know how deep season 3 is. I don't know if it goes very long. But anyway, it's still one of my favorite shows, even though it's cheesy as all get out. And this episode is no exception. We start things off in Granny's, in Hillbilly Jim's barn. I assume it's a barn. We get no intro. Well, we get an intro to the show, but we don't have Vince McMahon and Lord Alfred Hayes in the studio, at the desk, in the chairs, as they are the talk show set. We don't get that. They start TNT off in a barn setting. Now this is all done at the same studio that TNT taped. They just would change the sets and all that. And it was somewhere in Maryland. Somewhere in Maryland was the TNT studios, which I assume is just a soundstage that they used. But they're in Hillbilly Jim's barn, and Granny Kim is sitting there in her chair, and basically they're just going to meet with Hillbilly Jim and talk about his dogs and talk about his goats. And Granny, who I've never been able to find out who Granny really is. I assume that she was just an actress, and she was modeled after the Beverly Hillbillies grandmother, Clampett or whatever. So Granny Kim is sitting there, and she's plucking a real chicken. She has a dead chicken in her hands, and she's plucking it for real. I believe it's a real chicken. And Lord Alfred is doing his schlocky stuff with he can't handle being in the filth of Hillbilly Jim's barn, and McMahon is hilarious, and then from there they go and they show more training with Hulk Hogan. And they've been working this for a while. Hillbilly Jim has had plenty of in-ring action, but for some reason TNT keeps going back and showing, the training montage. I in particular like the kitchen set where, Hulk comes to pick up Hillbilly Jim. This time it's in Hillbilly's kitchen. Before it was in Hogan's kitchen. And now, which I'm sure wasn't Hogan's kitchen, it looked like a studio apartment. Like $400 a month rent apartment. But now Hillbilly Jim, since he's been getting so much better and knows how to lift weights now, he's making the protein shake, and that grosses out Hogan. prior, Hogan was making the shake, and Hillbilly Jim couldn't drink it. Anyway, from there we end with the Hillbilly, and we go back to the studio, and we have Jim Neidhart as our guest. And Jim Neidhart at the time, for some bizarre reason, is managed by Mr. Fuji, which makes zero sense to me. However, that's going to change. Stay tuned to the next review that we're going to do, and you'll see why that's changing. No, D-Mod, it's not Elizabeth, but Jim Neidhart will end up with a new manager very soon. Jim Neidhart comes out in a sweater, and then for some reason before he sits down takes off the sweater, and now he's just a fat man with pants, slacks on, and he's shirtless, and he's got, this big, massive barrel chest, and the Jim Neidhart belly has not yet been established, but you can see it's coming, and he's got this weird red chest hair that's kind of shaved down, but kind of growing in, and I was just like, what on earth did you take the shirt off for? And, he does his Jim Neidhart, but this is before he's like the maniacal, beard-stroking, laughing Jim Neidhart. He's kind of subdued, but still, getting his point across. They go to a match with Jim Neidhart wearing maroon, probably his Canada outfit, his Stampede outfit, the maroon tights. Obviously not a part of the pink and black yet. And he gets to beat up Jose Luis Rivera in a job match from TV. Next up, we've got Wyndham and Rotundo and with Captain Lou. And as soon as Wyndham and Rotundo come to the TNT set, girls, 6 or 8 girls rush Mike Rotundo and Barry Windham and start molesting them. They start attacking them. They're ripping off their clothes. McMahon's going nuts. Alfred's going nuts. Lou Albano's trying to, all right. And Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo are just laughing as they get their clothes ripped off. And then, like that, the girls just stop. And so it's, okay, cut, and the girls just stop. And then they leave them alone, and Windham and Rotundo go and sit at the set. And Barry's got his shirt ripped and blah, blah, blah. And McMahon is just eating this up. Oh, my, everywhere you go, this has to happen to you. And Alfred, couldn't imagine, and Albano is just yeah, everywhere we go, and so they're just trying. Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo are just like, man, paychecks are a good thing. They show some footage from Windham and Rotundo winning the tag belts from Adonis and Murdoch. This was not a televised match, so there was kind of a hard cam, or not a hard cam, but a hand cam recording the match, I assume to air on something like TNT, but the whole house show wasn't filmed. You get your standard interview, it's fine, and then remember, this is only an hour show, and with commercials taken out, it's like 40 minutes, 44 minutes. So the show ends back at Hillbilly Jim's house now. They're out of the barn, and they are in they're in Granny's dining room, and she's preparing dinner for everybody, and it looks fantastic. She's got this awesome, fried chicken and these potatoes and the collard greens with the fat back. Whatever fat back is, I think it's some kind of bacon, and they're eating, and of course, Alfred is particular about his food, and is this edible? And McMahon's like, come on, Alfred, eat, and it's great, and they're eating, and for some strange reason they go to a commercial break, and when they come back, Swede Hansen is at the table. Big Swede Hansen is now sitting with the family, and he's eating, right? Sure, he's eating now. I don't know where he came from. I don't know if he was invited, but he is now sitting down with the Hillbillies and McMahon and Alfred, and he's eating. And he's completely worthless in this segment. He doesn't talk. He's not funny. He doesn't do anything. And I also noticed, because I've got some swallowing issues, I notice these things. Swede Hansen doesn't chew his food when he swallows. I mean, they're legit eating. They're eating a meal that looks awesome. And he's eating, but he's not chewing. He chews like 1 or 2 times and then he swallows. And the whole time I was like, my goodness, he's going to choke. I'm projecting my own ailments onto him. The highlight of that skit is Lord Alfred would like some wine, and so Hillbilly Jim pours him some wine, and in fact it's moonshine. So go easy on it there, Alfred. Go easy on it. I can handle it, and he drinks it and he spits it all over the place, of course, because it's moonshine. And then Swede Hansen says, let me try a glass of that. And Alfred says, you got to be careful, and Swede just gulps it down and says, that's good. And Alfred stares at him in disbelief. And then it's over. There's your TNT for the week. And, look, as a child, I was just in love with the show. As an adult, I still think it's great. But man, Vince McMahon wanted to do this cartoony stuff right from day one. Right from day one, when he took over and started expanding, the WWF and every other wrestling organization at the time are so different. Did he have this image in his head right off the bat of we're just going to do goofy stuff and it's going to blow up? And it did. I mean, he wasn't wrong, right? Where's everybody else today? They're gone. After TNT, that's a Friday, so now we go to the Saturday programming, 223.85. We've got an episode of Championship Wrestling. And I just love this show. This is my favorite show of the batch that I have. It's my favorite because it's the most nostalgic for me. It's the most watched. Did I watch TNT every Tuesday night? Probably not, but did I watch Championship Wrestling every Saturday? And absolutely, without fail. Vince and Bruno open up the show, of course, and here we go. We've got the odd team of Steve Lombardi and Johnny Rods now taking on the U.S. Express, the tag team champions, Wyndham and Rotundo. Now I'm starting to feel a little excitement for the U.S. Express. I've always said that they were my favorite tag team, or one of my favorite tag teams, and one of my best memories of early wrestling when I was a kid. But their matches haven't been doing anything for me. And I haven't seen them in like a 20-minute house show match yet. Hopefully I will in the next couple house shows. But their TV matches aren't that great. This one is good, and I think it's because it's Johnny Rods, who's great. The crowd is just super hot for the U.S. Express because they're using the theme song Born in the USA. And that automatically pops the crowd. Bruce Springsteen is super hot at the time. This was a good little TV match. Some chain wrestling when Johnny Rods and Mike Rotundo are in there. The good guys do some double teaming. We've got some good guy double teaming, which McMahon loves. Strategic tag team wrestling there when the good guys are doing it. And he loses his mind when the bad guys are doing it, of course. Wyndham and Rotundo maintain the upper hand for most of the match. And, Steve Lombardi is going to take the pinfall in this one. He is the lesser of the two enhancement workers. I mean, do we really call Johnny Rods enhancement? But Steve Lombardi's taking the pin, and the pinfall comes with a Mike Rotundo airplane spin. And I liked that match. I thought it was a fun 3-minute TV match. Lou Albano really, really tries hard to be a good guy. He was a bad guy his whole career. Hated bad guy. And he's trying so hard to be a good guy. He's so over the top with his good guy stuff. In fact, now he's got a more trim, he trimmed his beard. He's got just a goatee and a mustache, like kind of some chin hair and a mustache. You got to clean up your look if you're a good guy. We've got some highlights of Leilani Kai defeating Wendy Richter. So this episode of Championship Wrestling is at least acknowledging war to settle the score. They're not talking about the main event yet, but they are saying that we've got a new women's champion. We've got Greg Valentine taking on Big Joe Murto. And Valentine is debuting his new manager, folks. Jimmy Hart is here. They do acknowledge him as the mouth of the South, but he has no megaphone yet. And he's a little subdued. He's not the squirrely, jumping up and down on the outside the entire match. You don't hear him the whole match as you do when he gets his megaphone. Like, he doesn't shut up the whole match. He's kind of, he's okay. He's not obnoxious, but Jimmy Hart is here now. This is February '85, and Jimmy Hart's on the scene. Straight from Tennessee, right? Straight from Jerry Lawler turf. Mid-South, or what is it called? Mid-South? No. What was it called? Memphis. Memphis Wrestling. Big Joe Mirto gets in a little bit of offense, including a body slam on the Intercontinental Champion. And you're saying, well, what the heck's the big deal? It is a big deal. It is a big deal. So Joe Mirto gets the body slam on Greg Valentine. Of course, Valentine takes over and ultimately wins with the figure 4. And Jimmy Hart will soon add Jim Neidhart to his stable. And then Bret Hart probably shortly thereafter. I don't think they start teaming until summer or later of '85. We've got David Sammartino versus R.T. Reynolds. Of course, we've mentioned before, R.T. Reynolds is the future Corporal Kirshner. I was going to say former, so I went but future Corporal Kirshner. Again, another good little TV match. Surprisingly fast-paced. We get the introduction of the first lady referee, as she is referred to, lady referee Rita Chatterton, who would soon become the first or many victims of Vince McMahon, according to Rita Chatterton. Vince allegedly had his way with her in the back of his limo, and I do believe he paid her. Not for the activities in the back of the limo. Later on, he paid her in a settlement. But we've got Rita Chatterton, and within the first 7 seconds of the match, she almost gets knocked over, being in the wrong place. She's out of place, Rita. She almost got slammed because she was in the wrong place. Lady refs. I'm just kidding, ladies. Love the lady refs. Nice little back and forth before David catches him in the power slam for the win. Again, I still can't see what Vince saw in R.T. Reynolds to make him Corporal Kirshner. Granted, it's a year away, but I still can't see it. He's not that great. And with the long hair and the handlebar mustache, he just looks silly. So I don't know where they came up with, oh, that guy, pal, is Corporal Kirshner. I don't know. For some odd reason, David Sammartino is celebrating in the ring, and Andre the Giant comes down and congratulates him. I don't know. I don't know why. They would do that. They would do that often for some reason. They would just have a guy come out and stand around and wave to the crowd, and this time it was Andre. Next up, we have Tony Gurria versus Don Morocco. Very interesting match here, with Gurria getting a ton of offense. Gurria gets the majority of the offense. This probably would have been a 15-minute match in MSG. It would have been a great match at MSG. And it's a decent TV match with Gurria really handing it to Don Morocco. In fact, Don Morocco spends some time on the outside of the ring, as Gurria is a house of fire. Gurria goes to suplex Morocco back into the ring. And as he does that, Morocco kind of rolls, you know how you get suplexed in the ring and your momentum kind of carries you over and everybody's rolled up in a ball and you don't know who's pinning who. Well, the crowd didn't know either. They actually thought Tony Gurria won this match. And in fact, McMahon said, nice little upset here. And I don't know what he was thinking. That's the worst reaction ever. Usually, this is Vince McMahon with the 1, 2, no! New champion, no! The excitement isn't there for Tony Gurria beating Don Morocco on TV. He literally says, nice little upset here. And then, of course, Gurria's shoulders were down and Morocco is the winner. Morocco gets barely any offense. We have no reverse pile driver for the winner. We have no, Asian spike or Asiatic, I don't even know Asiatic spike off the second rope. The taped up thumb is a weapon, apparently, for Don Morocco. We learned that in the Orient, as they would say, in 1985. All right, we got a Piper's Pit with the Heenan family. We got Big John Studd, Ken Patera, and Bobby Heenan. This is the first mention of $15,000 body slam match, which will take place in only a month between Andre and Stud. Of course, they've been talking about Andre since the haircut, and Piper is still mentioning the haircut. I mean, this is like such a big deal. A haircut, folks. Biggest deal. You'd think it's an armed robbery. It's a kill your dog. You know, it's a haircut. And they're still working the heck out of this haircut. Then we finally get a little bit of footage of Hogan versus Piper at War to Settle the Score. So we are officially on the road to WrestleMania. The show ends with Paul Orndorff versus Jim Young. It's your typical Paul Orndorff match, which means Paul Orndorff is super stiff and beating the heck out of Jim Young, who has an odd look. He's got this long curly hair, mustache, just looks weird. They're still doing the short-lived and nobody even remembers the Paul Orndorff stretcher gimmick, where Bobby Heenan carries out a stretcher. These stretchers are straight from like 1962 Vietnam, you know, right off the MASH television show set. They're these green G.I. Joe rolled up stretchers, right? And Bobby Heenan has to like carry it over his shoulder. You know, it's like your army stretcher. It's just so silly looking. So the only way he's going to get stretchered out is if he takes the pile driver, but before the pile driver, Paul Orndorff, who just takes tons of liberties with his enhancement guys, suplexes Jim Young into the turnbuckle. So he's real close to the turnbuckle and he suplexes him into it. Well, how do you think you're going to fall when you hit the turnbuckle first? You're going to land on your neck. So Jim Young almost breaks his neck right there. And then that's followed up by a pile driver. And then the stretcher job, as he's carted off, you know, from the Vietnam casualty. Jim Young is carted off on this G.I. Joe stretcher. And that's that. That's the show. So that's the week. That's TNT from 222 and Championship Wrestling from 223. We still have a Maple Leaf Wrestling, which is now just All-Star Wrestling, from 223 also. And then we have All-American Wrestling on 224. So we've got two more shows just from this weekend alone. This weekend, then All-Star, and which is my least favorite show, Jesse Ventura and Jack Reynolds on commentary. And then we have I think I might have said All-Star. All-American Wrestling on Sunday, which is not yet All-American Wrestling. It's not yet Mean Gene in that weird studio. It's still a TBS NWA studio show, which I don't like. It's a total recap show. It's hard to sit through because I've seen it all. It's not yet All-American Wrestling on USA with Mean Gene. We're not there yet. I assume mid-85, the end of 85. Yeah, no, because NWA goes back to TBS around March or April. So I think or May. So I think we're out of there soon. We're out of the TBS studios soon. All right, folks, that's Wrestling with the Past. And I am now past. I'm in the past. I don't know what that means. We'll see you next time. Good night now.